Everyone. My name is Jordan Farmer. This is the Uncommon Conversations podcast, episode lucky number 13. Today's guest is Mythical Vigilante. He's an artist, rapper, and musician, whatever you want to call him. And he is very political and has all sorts of interesting political opinions. And so we are going to be having a bit of a discussion slash. Hello, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Sure thing. I want to make it clear I am not a rapper.
Oh, okay.
I'm just a producer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. I wasn't sure. Okay. A little misunderstanding on my part. No worries.
You don't want to hear me.
Oh, trust me, I do.
No.
Now that you've said that, I definitely do. But we'll leave that for another day.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah, what's up?
So we were going to come on, just talk a variety of political topics and whatnot. Do you want to jump into like Afghanistan? What's going on with that right now?
Not really, man. I mean, it's such a damn psyop. I don't think it's really, in my opinion, nothing is what it seems there. So it's really, unless you have a super based opinion about it, you're probably way off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any of it is what it seems. We are not in the loop. So it's kind of hard to comment on something where we're so uneducated about what's really happening. You know what I mean? But I do want to comment on that post that you made from last week. If you remember, I said we should talk about it on the show. About that cop that was killed while she has, a newborn child at home. And I said that was feminism 100%, the reason she's dead right now. Because in my opinion, it is. There is no reason that a woman should be out on the street protecting men. Men were put on this earth with the testosterone to protect women. That's why we're here. Women, if they were out there supposed to be protecting men, they would have testosterone. They do not have it. So that is not their job. Secondly, women are built to take care of small children. Men aren't. We can't breastfeed. We don't have the empathy and the care that women have. There's no reason a woman with a newborn child should be on the street putting herself in danger. That's extremely selfish. Her career is more important than her small child, than her family. It's disgusting. And the only reason this is happening is because feminists pushed for women to get in the workforce for all this equality when they test across the board as much unhappier since then. Women were tested much happier before feminism. Now they're more miserable. Marriages are failing. Instead of 50% of the population being in the workforce, men, now 100% of the population is in the workforce. Now you can't afford to buy a home till you're in your 40s. Back in the 50s and 60s, a janitor who was 22 years old could afford to buy a home. Feminism is directly responsible for that. They're directly responsible for the divorce rates going through the roof. Marriages not really happening. People aren't having children. These are the unintended consequences of liberal policies. We don't need women out on the street putting themselves in danger when they have small children at home. It is disgusting.
Yeah, so I definitely disagree to an extent to that frame of things. So I definitely agree that for the most part, like the biological aspects, testosterone and breastfeeding, stuff like that, like obviously you can't argue against that. But like parental investment is a category unto itself, separate from men and women. And being economically productive, like economically productive or productive means different things. Making clothes back in the day was a form of economic productivity if it's cheaper to make it at home than other things. Cooking at home versus having somebody else cook it for you, right? So women have been economically productive, and I think it's partially a commentary on nature, and it's partially a commentary on the ideal relationship where the woman should, like in the Bible, submit to their husbands. Men, treat your wives as you would treat yourselves. Like it's a reciprocal relationship. But the woman should have a man that she wants to look up to and who can provide for her and protect her and all those things. And women, almost by definition, that go any other direction with what they're pursuing in a partner, want a weak, easy to dominate, not even, it's not even a man or a woman thing, because like women shouldn't be dominated and just like a whipping post either. So it's more so a dysfunctional relationship thing. But to some extent, it's not being a real man, but like being dominated in that way is not being a real woman either. It's,
you think most women want a weak man that's easy to be controlled and dominated?
No. I'm just saying some women choose that route, and it's a stupid choice.
Right. Yeah, I just think that, we've been on this planet for hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions. There was one dynamic between men and women that we evolved with, okay? The feminism thing is just brand spanking new. When you have evolved biologically with a certain dynamic and then you just upend that and just completely reverse everything and you expect good results, you're crazy.
I think it's important in discussions to have a definition for something. So when the way you're talking about feminism, like feminism to me means sort of two groups of things. One was women having the freedoms to have the same access to everything as equal citizens under the law, both voting, the ability to go work a job if they want to. Yeah, first wave feminism, right? And then pretty much everything beyond that has been mostly just wanting to blow up tradition for blowing up tradition's sake. Exactly. And not thinking about any of the better, like the idea that so here's where we agree. The idea that the traditional gender roles are some oppressive patriarchy is a joke. It's like, wait a minute, I'm going to go bust my ass so that you can chill at home and clean and just, sort of take care of things at home and be able to, be a homemaker and do the things that are much more enjoyable, hanging out with the kid. Now, depending on the couple, usually the guy will be less suited for that role. But my only thing is, like, there's always exceptions, and there's I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with a woman working if she has a desire to be productive or creative in some way.
Right. But at what cost? See, so this cop decided that, I'm going to be a career. She fell into the feminist.
So I agree that feminism cost this woman her life, but I disagree, I think, with the specific mechanism. If you believe in true feminism, first wave feminism, equality of the sexes, you can't have different standards for physical fitness and preparedness for men and women. You can't say that you're going to be a cop, but we have these standards for male cops, these standards for female cops. I think so. Here's the thing: if a woman was capable, and say she was 40, she had already had her kids, and she's like 6'2", very athletic, and could kick most dudes' asses because those women are like the male woman dichotomy is true.
I don't think a 6'2" woman could kick hardly any dude's ass.
How much training in combat? Not to pull the authority card, but how much training in like martial arts have you done?
I've done quite a bit. When I was a kid, I took judo and taekwondo.
Okay.
My point
so an athletic 6'2" woman who knew what she was doing could definitely kick most dudes' asses.
There's not many. You would be hard pressed to find.
Well, I'm not saying that they're a dime a dozen, that they're in equal measure to men. I'm just saying, like, because you're saying women shouldn't be in, right? And I'm saying some women should be if they can meet the standards.
Form our society around a few exceptional individuals. At all, they're just.
I think the essence of freedom is that, right? You doing your producing thing, right? Why are they allowing you to do it? Because you're being exceptional within your unique domain.
I'll come together.
An individual.
I'll come together with you on that. They should have the freedom to do that. But as a culture, we should not be incentivizing and pushing women to do these things. All women. you know, they put quotas in place. You need more women on your police force. No, we don't.
Yeah, that's all retarded.
Absolutely don't. We need less women on the police force. That's my problem with the left.
That's probably true.
Instead of giving
variety of reasons,
they try to force the bad idea. Okay, sure, there might be a few exceptional women that probably maybe are fit to be police. I think it's probably only a handful of women, but they're trying to say that we need women on the police force. Why? We need women.
I do. Well,
we need
so there is one argument when it comes to like rape response and domestic violence, that having a woman there to advocate. Because here's the thing: there are stupid meathead men who will have a bro of conduct as it relates to domestic violence. And like, if a admirable man is not there to tell those assholes to go fuck themselves, shit happens. And more than likely, on average, women are more agreeable than men. So on average, you had a woman there, they'd be more likely to see that side of the scenario and be able to advocate for that. And with those issues, what I believe is a woman basically being on the lead for handling the sort of, basically being in the command position, but the muscle, because I'm assuming more often than not, the woman will not be as physically capable as the men. You'd want like a 1 woman, 2 men, 3-part police sort of partner team there to handle any sort of scenario. They all need to, and here's the thing. There's male, fat, out of shape cops who can't fight on the force now, and that's an issue. Yeah, incompetent men are just as much of an issue, but not for the same reasons. You know, we were talking about feminism, and here's the thing: feminism, like if so, here's the thing: like, yeah, that woman was doing something that is both admirable, but in that particular case, stupid, because she's a small child. Being a policeman is admirable.
No, yeah. If you have a small child that you're neglecting at home, that is not admirable.
Well, okay. You're sort of assuming that there's neglect there.
There is.
That there's 168 hours in a week. You can work a 48. If you're dedicated to the right things, you can work a 40-hour week job and be an invested parent.
I'm not assuming.
Anyone who's saying otherwise is lazy.
I'm not assuming anything. I'm saying it is a fact that woman was neglecting her child because she was not there. We know she wasn't there. She got shot on the job. That means she is not there for her child, and that means she is neglecting that child. Now, the left has...
If you generalize that point, it gets retarded.
I don't think
anyone who's not there and dies in the line of duty because they couldn't be there for their kids
exactly. She is not where
men too. That applies to men too. What you just described, except for she can't breastfeed, and they have formula. It's not as good. It's not ideal, but it's like you're saying there's something neglectful about not being there for your kids, like physically just not being there in that moment.
Right.
Oh, but it's not true if it's a man.
No.
Why?
Men are not biologically here to...
Yes, but we have formula, and we have the men. Like, it's not like men can't parent.
Poison.
Not very men are great at parenting, but men can parent. It's not like you can't, like the meat and potatoes of what you're talking about, feeding it and raising it. Like, good parenting and bad parenting is infinitely more important than man and woman. And 2 parents instead of 1 parent is infinitely more important than man and woman.
What is the natural dynamic? What is the natural biological dynamic?
The average, basic, without taking into account any of the anomaly situation, is 1 man, 1 woman. The man is more disagreeable, a little bit better at going and being productive in a capitalist scenario. The woman is more agreeable, more nurturing, more better at being the, fosterer of the children's potential in the early years.
Roles. What is the roles men and women have evolved into naturally over hundreds of thousands of years? What is the woman's role?
Probably protector and nurturer, or protector and nurturer.
The male is the provider, the one that goes out there.
So as a man, as a protector, you can be nurturing too, right?
What?
As a protector, you can be nurturing too, right?
I suppose.
Encouraging, nurturing.
I feel like you're weaseling around the question. We all know.
I'm trying. You're holding certain categories in place that I think are not valid categories.
This isn't my
of distinction.
The natural order that we have evolved under over hundreds of thousands of years is that the woman stays home with the small children to look after them, while the man risks his life to provide for them.
Why?
Feminine, because of the testosterone, because of our biology, because of the way we evolved on this planet.
And because we're much more replaceable than women are.
Sure. Point is, she has no business leaving her small child at home to go do something a man should be doing. And the only reason she's doing that is because feminism has filled her full of bullshit. And she thinks it's okay. It is not okay. You are now dead. Your child is motherless because you followed this feminist garbage.
I'm having a hard time seeing what a man in that role, like what is different about a man being in that exact same set of scenarios versus the woman.
Why would a man be like, what is it's not,
except for what I will say is this, like,
child.
Sorry,
the man can't breastfeed a child, right? It is not the man's responsibility.
We have formula though. Like it's not as good, but it does the job. The kid won't die.
Natural. I'm talking about the natural configuration.
Okay. Okay, I don't believe that natural. Okay, what's natural is not a dude finding one woman, only sleeping with her his entire life, and investing heavily in that child. What's normal is for the dude to sleep with her and bail. Natural is not good. And to believe natural is good is an inherent fallacy.
I'm talking about roles, though. What is the natural role?
So we've evolved around certain roles, right? Yeah, we've evolved around certain roles. That doesn't mean that you can only play the role. You're not a machine.
Okay, so you think we should switch it up.
Men and women are hyper-specialized for certain things.
She should be out defending men while the man is at home giving formula to the baby. You think that's natural?
So that individual, I don't think so. But some women, yeah. Like, again, what if it was, so let's say we took that same woman, because I'm from bodybuilding, powerlifting. I know a little bit about, like, training athletes. She was very physically weak. I could tell from the way she looked. If she was like, whatever, she just had a 2-month-old child, right? So if it was 15 years later and she had been powerlifting and she had been training in martial arts and then she went and decided to be a cop, there's nothing wrong with that I see.
I'll tell you what's wrong with it. She has
now maybe the timing is wrong and it sucks that the thing died, but it's not. I don't agree with these broader points.
You're missing the whole point here. It doesn't matter if she's strong or weak. She is the mother of a newborn child. She does not need to be out there risking her life when she has a baby that needs her 1,000,000 times more than citizens. She has a responsibility to that child.
Okay. Okay, okay, so mothers, especially young mothers, do have a specific and special obligation to newborns. But sorry, I kind of lost like what you had just said. Will you please repeat what you just said?
Well, I'm just saying, it doesn't matter if she is capable, if she's strong and she knows she's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. She still has a 2-month-old child. Okay, that decision for her to have a baby trumps her wish to go out there and fight crime.
Okay. Oh, okay. I remember my point. So my initial point was
at home.
Yeah, my initial point was yes, women are. There's a special necessity in the early months. If you want to raise a child optimally, there's a special relationship in the early months between the mom and the baby.
In my opinion,
but with that being said, if you're gonna make like the arguments you're making to me about why it's wrong, apply to men in the same position as well, right? Why would anyone risk their life being a cop when they can have a greater obligation to their child, right? The father also has that greater obligation to the child, right?
Not as a new look, as a newborn.
Not to the same degree, but he still has that, right?
The father can't do anything at home with a newborn child. The mother is the one who needs to be there for that. But that only leaves one person left, right? Who's going to provide? The father is. In those crucial months, there is no reason the woman should be out fighting crime if there's a father in the picture. You know, there's no reason. And even if there isn't a father in the picture, she has
under an ideal scenario, and for that specific woman, there might have been a necessity.
Security. You know,
right? Like what? Like so. Here's an interesting leftist / feminist policy that sort of would support what you're trying to go after here. I don't know what the circumstances were for that particular woman, but if it was financial reasons, let's say she picked a man and he was a loser and he dipped, and that's on her 100%, no child support, whatever. If she was in a position where she had to go back to work 2 months after or whenever it was, I don't know what the circumstances were. If we had a policy where you got paid leave when you're, you know, the parent of a baby, and you like guaranteed 6 months or whatever, that way women have that opportunity to compete equally in the workforce and still play that role at home that they should. Like I would support something like that. It's not a policy I would typically like, but if you're looking for just benefiting society, that seems like a pretty obvious one.
Well, if she's a single parent and there is no father to back her up, even more reason for her to not be risking her life as a police officer if she is the only sole parent that child relies on. She needs to go work in a bakery or as a nurse or whatever. But being a cop, when you have a newborn baby at home as a mother or a new mother or just a single parent, is irresponsible and neglectful to the child.
Okay. Like I can bite on that. I just don't bite that it's just a feminism or woman thing.
Well,
if you have a child and you're if you have young children that need to be raised and you're out risking your life, you could say anyone doing that is being neglectful.
If it weren't for feminism, her being a police officer wouldn't even be an option. It is solely because of feminism that she is expected to be a cop.
Well, okay. So you're switching from allowed to expected, right?
Yeah. What I mean is, like, a lot of this is just incentivizing. A lot of this is just the left. Oh, it's great. You know, it's all this. They run every institution. They run the media. They run the culture. Period. So it's this.
The propaganda is real. I'm there with you on that. The propaganda is real.
Also, why do we want masculine women? Why do we want women walking around with guns on their hips? Like, you do what I tell you to. This is unattractive. Men are not into masculine women. I mean, why do you think divorces are happening more often and people aren't getting married? Women are becoming way masculinized. Men are becoming demoralized and feminized. And neither one of us can hold a relationship with each other because we're too alike. You're supposed to relish in the differences. A woman is supposed to be feminine and soft and gentle, not freeze, get on the ground, punk. That is gross. Who wants a woman like that? Maybe a dyke.
Like, again, I think the points you're making about most people are probably true. Maybe, again, I think this is a personality thing. I'm like, you know, you do you, boo-boo, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, but like
most people, yeah, you're probably right. And I don't think the traditional gender roles are these oppressive constructs, but I do believe in equality under the law and freedom. So I'm like, and again, like, I know you don't disagree with those, so we're kind of like, we're arguing on different planes here, but.
I don't disagree with the freedom at all, but my problem is all of these lies that are just propagated by the left, that it's totally fine for a woman to become a cop. No, she should have the freedom to become a cop, but we need to be honest about the fact that hey, we don't really want women doing this. You know, it's not good for them. It's not good for the children. It masculinizes them and makes them less attractive, less wanted. It screws up the natural order of everything. The more masculine women get, the less we want them.
I disagree with that. For me personally, at least, I disagree with that. Like, I don't want I don't. So it's just because I differentiate a lot of what you're talking about from feminine and masculine. Like I think there's plenty of beautiful and attractive and wonderful feminine women that like are very competent martial artists, very competent sharpshooters. The best example of a combo of this is Valentina Shevchenko. She's a MMA world champion at 125 pounds, and she's a trained sharpshooter, intelligence agent, and like and knocks bitches out. Like she's like she could hit some people for sure. So like
because of her.
But again, exceptions for sure. But I like the exceptional aspects of humans.
The more okay, all those things that you named that she does, those are traditionally masculine traits. That's cool, but I can guarantee you most men are not going to be attracted to her because of those things. Now,
for sure.
We get men and women to become more like each other. That's a huge problem.
So what you're kind of getting at, and I think it's really interesting, is like if women care about having a successful relationship, and if men do for that matter, you got to be honest about what men and women want, right? Like if you're a man that no woman wants, you can't be there bitching and complaining because no one will, date you. If you're a woman that no man wants, you can't stand there bitching and complaining because you're too much of a woman for men to handle or whatever bullshit, they'll usually be spewing. I'm a strong, independent, like all that crap. Like not again, strength and independence are good qualities in and of themselves. I'm never saying those kinds of bullshits, but yeah. So like there's and the propaganda and the idea like from school and childhood on for women to be, you got to compete with men. You got to value the same things as men, the domain of accomplishment and careers and ambition. That's what women really want. They don't want to just love and nurture and be a sweet human being and take care of home. And like here's the thing, like, and this is, I don't know what the normal scenario is, but me and my girls, IQs have been tested with the same. I don't like saying the number because it's probably a bullshit test. But when two people take the same test, you can, at least verify whatever the relative thing is. My girl's slightly smarter than I am. And so like when I like ideas more, I like talking about ideas more. So like I come up with stuff that I bring to her and I'm like, check this out. And she'll be like, yeah, that's interesting. Or give me, really good feedback. So it's, so like women are perfectly capable of doing all these things, but I don't think, to your point, they're as evolved to be inclined to do it. And we are forcing the issue by telling women to be men and men to be women.
What you're talking
and when women want other women to be,
what you're talking about with that dynamic with you and your girlfriend, that's perfectly natural. There's nothing unnatural about having brilliant and intelligent conversations, deep conversations with a smart, intelligent woman. That has nothing, that's perfectly natural. What I have a problem with is our roles. When you try to upend nature, you are going to get negative results. You can't fight against the current and expect everything to go smooth.
If we tried to make our culture about women being the protectors and men being the nurturers, we'd be
it would fall apart. But that's what the left is.
And they're trying to do that, to be fair.
And it's causing lots of problems. You can almost attribute every single problem we have to a left-wing policy. Almost all, they just let's implement this and not even address the consequences and keep plowing forward with new policies that create more consequences. It's just constantly leaving consequences in the wake. And then if you try to point out, but hey, now these women are super masculinized and nobody's having children, they're like, oh, you bigot. They don't even want to address the consequences of their policies. And this is my problem. We need to turn back the clock. We don't need to discuss these things. These people are completely wrong about almost everything. And we just need to tell them no and start marching back the way we came from. And all we're doing today is slowing down the inevitable progressivism. And I stick to my stomach with that. At
this point in time, we need a sharp retraction backwards. Right. Like we've probably for the last 10 to 20 years on most things, not everything, but most things have been sliding in the wrong direction.
Yes.
And you could say in many other areas it's been longer coming, but definitely like the worst of it's definitely been the wokeism of 2014 to now. That's been the bridge between potential totalitarianism and it showing up on our doorstep.
I have no patience for these people. They are destroying everything good. And I'm done with it. I disagree with everything that comes out of their
We
mouth.
can't have comedy. We can't have sports. We can't have, like, here's the thing, like, for all of the shit talking of the right or whatever, or how, like, religious or whatever Trump supporters are, like, all those, like, attacks on them or whatever, the left has been poisoning all of society with, you have to agree with me on these things. And it's definitely come from them, and it's ruined almost everything.
Which is ironic because they're wrong about all of it.
Yeah.
And so
that's why they have to force it. Like it doesn't ring true. It's like you gotta like beat people over the head into submission for it.
Right. So I don't think we're doing ourselves a favor trying to like negotiate with them. The answer is no, and I want my rights back.
Yeah. So I'm like I'm a moderate only because I think it's ultimately there are aspects of our society that have to move forward and progress. There's aspects of our society that need to be preserved and conserved. And I think so both of those frameworks I like to work with. But right now, what is most pressing is what we're losing and what we need to conserve. And so I'm most allied. Maybe 20 years ago, it would have been like with Bush going into Afghanistan and Iraq and Clinton getting impeached. He technically lied under oath, but it was mostly about like the whole blowjob thing. So like I probably would have been more center left at that point and been like, right wingers are kind of losing their shit right now.
Yeah,
but,
I remember those days. I don't know how old you are, but I remember those days very well. And like you know, there was a different vibe. The right was very different back then, and the left has become something else from what they were back then. I mean, they were still implementing policies and damn the consequences, but they've just gone so far overboard and become just like psychopathic, power hungry, just evildoers, you know?
So I grew up, my mom was pretty politically active and like pretty woke. Like I had my first sort of sense of the institutions failing us, like from childhood.
Yeah.
On because my mom worked in the rape response advocate department and worked for California State they had committees where they went and wasted a bunch of money figuring out how to actually solve crimes, and they mess with statistics. So there was a lot of the deception of the game, so to speak, that I was like privy to from the jump, and I'm very, very grateful for that to my mom. We're right now just I probably missed the little things, but to bring back the previous point, right now I'm allied with the right because they're the only people that care about American freedom and preserving the American project. The left is happy to run itself off of a cliff right now if it thinks it's in the name of compassion. And it's not even, it's boneheaded compassion. It's not even sophisticated compassion. Because like the fatherly compassion is I know what you have in your potential, and I care about you succeeding and having and fostering that. So it's maybe a tougher love, but it's still like love and caring about the kid. But it's a different thing. Anyway,
they're not acting in good faith. They're not being responsible. It is time for the adults to take the keys and not give them back.
Yeah.
And I am not in any mood to compromise with them anymore. They're not truthful. They're not, like I said, they're acting in bad faith, and they can't be trusted.
There's basically like 2, maybe 3. It's basically just 2 policy points that I agree with on the left. And that's it. Like that's all they got. And it's just drugs and prostitution. That's it. It's just legalizing those 2 things. That's it. Everything else that they have going on right now is race baiting. It's manipulative. It's just, I believe I'm more morally, like it's all moral superiority games where it's like, I'm not as racist as the right wingers. I don't hate the poor like the right wingers do. I don't, suck Donald Trump's dick like the right do. Like there's all these, it's all about like attacking and demonizing the other right, with the left, despite the fact that they're always talking about how dangerous that is, right? It's like I call it mama bear energy, where it's like it's like they're acting in protection of something, and it's just vicious, like venom coming out.
Yeah, I don't.
It's like in the name of compassion, let me smash you over the head.
To what you said earlier about you like a couple of things. If I see something they're doing that I like, I get even more paranoid because I'm like, what's the real reason here? Because there's no way that they are being rational. They are completely irrational. So if you see something that makes sense, you should be more worried. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
no, I get it. But
I mean,
to be fair, like many left wingers don't believe in legalizing prostitution or drugs either. It's just some left wingers do. Most people think both of those things are incredibly taboo and crazy. Like anytime I've talked to people left, right, or center, for the most part, and I say I think prostitution should be legalized. Like if they're a woman, they haven't responded to me, and if they're a man, they're like, but what would keep us from going and sleeping with them immediately? And on the drug front, it's like, I think heroin should be legal. And they just look at me like I'm totally insane. And I'm like, well, we're not going to have a productive conversation, but whatever.
You know, if the left implemented the things they like to implement, but allowed us to keep our social stigmas, it would be different. But you're not allowed to criticize these people. Sex work, real work. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. If that's what you want to do, fine. But you need to understand that we are going to sit here and criticize your skanky ass for that.
See, in my head, I'm just like, for some of them, it is real work.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's disgusting. It's disgusting depravity that needs to be stigmatized. We don't need the mothers of our children in this society showing their pussy to everybody. And that's what's going on. I mean,
OnlyFans, yeah.
Look, I've met somebody serious, but when I was dating, I would run into these women, and I'd be like, wow, she's pretty decent. And then I'd find out, oh, she's got an OnlyFans page. Hot potato. She's gone. There's so many of them. So many. And it's all the women of childbearing age, too. It's this younger generation. The women who are supposed to be the nurturing, caring mothers of our children are showing their pussies for a few bucks. And look, it's disgusting. And like I told you earlier,
they're acting out. Go ahead.
You look at any serial killer, and one thing they have in common is a whore for a mother. Almost every single one of them. Now, when you've got a bunch of OnlyFans moms running around, these kids are going to grow up to resent women very much because of that. And they'll probably become very toxic towards women because of the way they were raised by their whore of a mother. You know, I'm doing an OnlyFans. You can't come in right now. Or pulling up her computer and seeing images that are fucking disgusting of their own mother. Like, this is what turns men into psychopaths. That is what all serial killers have in common, almost every single one of them. This is another unintended consequence. Oh, so what is real work? Damn the consequence.
So do you think it's just like a PTSD? What's your theory as to why that is? Do you think it's like a PTSD reaction to like a paradigm of like your mom is, because like even in bonobos, right? Bonobos are like the whores of the primate kingdom. Mothers and sons don't mix ever sexually. They do all kinds of other weird shit. That's the one. So like there's something sacred like in the primate kingdom about that relationship, non-sexualized maternal image.
Right.
And so it would make sense that something could, even in a vague sense, but I want your theories more specifically, but something in a vague sense, it just breaks you in a way. If that gets charged to, if those wires get crossed for too long.
And the reason
too intensely.
The reason is because we evolved on this planet with a certain dynamic. Women have certain roles. If you pervert, that role as a mother, it's going to have consequences on the children. The children are the one they're trying to learn how to be a healthy human being from you. It is your role to not show them to be depraved. And that's what's happening. It's like they ingrainedly know that their mother is supposed to be this role model, but she was a whore instead. So they just, it screws, their wires get crossed somewhere, and they hate women because of it. It happens a lot. So, I mean, like, this is another thing. The leftists, they don't care about the consequences. They're like, and if you criticize sex workers, you're a bigot. You're a misogynist. No, actually, I care more about women than you do. You know,
you're concerned with what's best for them,
right?
Like, and what the evidence says.
I want them to be respectable. You know, you want
respectable,
to look at
happy, meaningful, fulfilled lives, the whole deal.
Yeah. Nobody is growing old at the end of their life and going, God, I still feel so fulfilled by all the OnlyFans accounts I had in the time. No, they say I'm so fulfilled by the family life I've had. Nobody's gonna think about
no one. Yeah. Okay, maybe no one, but damn near no one is going to be fulfilled by their OnlyFans page.
Right.
They might get filled, but not fulfilled.
But I don't like to. Yeah, I don't like to set my opinion based on a few weak exceptions. I like looking at generalities. What's best on the whole? Yeah, there's going to be a few outliers with everything in every aspect of life. Okay, but there are general rules, and we need to stop acting like they aren't a thing. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. You know, so it's interesting what you were sort of describing to me. Like there would be a biological / societal reason why the whore mother thing would create such havoc. One, like if you don't know who your dad is, you're not going to get any investment from him, right? So like if your mom's been with 10 men that week and she doesn't know who the dad is and she's not going to find out, when you're procreated, when you're born out of that, you're literally born sort of biologically without help. It's sort of like the lone child. You're born to shit circumstances by definition. And so if you grow up where you know you're not getting that investment and it's partially because, you know, of the choices of your own mom, like biologically you're in some essence, if you want to look at it really negatively, I'm not saying this is what you are in the sum total of the meaning of a human being, but you're a failed biological project. You're a dead end biologically. You're a mistake, right? That's a concept. Like you biologically, you know, if you were born on purpose and you were born like everything came, you know, on purpose or whatever, like that's something that people struggle with. And then you just have the parental investment issue. I was sort of jumping around there, but I think a broken self-esteem or sense of self-worth from the world telling you so that you're not worth anything could be tied into having a mom where she didn't. So this is where it gets really nefarious. Women choose who they procreate with outside of like rape. So all of the loser fathers in the world are ultimately the responsibility of some woman making a dumb choice. All of the children who are born to really crappy circumstances without the right parental investment and everything, it's the consequence of that mom. And like the father too, for sure, but like she chose him and they came together. So it's a mutual deal. Like I'm not saying that he isn't responsible, I'm just saying she is responsible. There's consequences to that. Like if you choose to act as a woman or a man, but as we'll say as a woman in such a way that risks, you know, having a kid under circumstances where that kid won't have the support or the care that it needs, you're literally sort of saying that kid doesn't have as much value in your actions. You don't care enough to make sure that kid has the right father to make the right choices.
Right.
And very few people have that perspective from the jump to say, I'm looking for the mother of my children from the jump. Most people are like, ooh, titties.
And these are all symptoms of left-wing sentiments. All of them. The right is trying to give emphasis on family and dual parent households and traditional gender roles. That is the right configuration, period. That is
for the so here's the way I describe it. That's the ideal.
Huh?
I just describe it as the ideal, not the right, because binary thinking is the right configuration, the wrong configuration.
Well,
if you're one, well, so here's what I mean. If you're one notch different than the ideal, you're not bad automatically, right?
No, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why I consider that language to be really important, because it's very easy for people to think that you think that everything is like wrong and perverse if you don't match that strict definition when you say it that way. And I didn't assume you meant that, so that's why I said that.
Well, yeah. Thanks for making that distinction. Yeah, absolutely don't want to go that far, but we all instinctively know what the right things are. What the left does, they erode our morality. And they start having people, even though they know what's right for them, and they generally know what the right configuration is or the ideal configuration is, the left gets into your morality and starts chipping away at it. Like, this is okay. No. So this is okay. Don't worry about that. You're a bigot if you think otherwise. Until morality crumbles, people just start doing it however they feel like, instead of the ideal way, instead of chasing the ideal way to have a family and to parent. They're making all these bad decisions based on left-wing sentiment.
So part of the left-wing programming you're referencing kind of influenced what the point we hit on earlier. What's natural is not good. The Bible tells us that we're born in sin, so what is natural is inherently flawed and non-ideal. It deviates because sin is a archery term. You hit the bullseye. Anything that's not the bullseye is a sin. You can miss it by, like I said, the ideal, you can miss it by a little bit, you miss it by a lot, you can shoot the dude behind you. There's gradations. So our nature, like if men just followed so here's a better way of saying it. If men just followed their base instincts, society would be fucked.
That's true.
If every woman we wanted, every ass we wanted to slap, every guy we wanted to attack and beat up and be violent towards, every single little urge that we had as base instincts, if we followed those through, society would be screwed. So right. You have to reject your sinful nature and turn towards the metaphorically speaking, paternal ideal that is the judge, that is concerned with bringing forth the best in you, the tough love, the ideal. It's all tied in there. Well, I don't know if you're Christian or not, but that's how I am. I tie it all in that way.
Yeah, I am a Christian, and you're right about that. You kind of got me there, because if you follow nature completely, we would be screwed. So I maybe want to kind of go away from the nature thing, but that's a big societal sort of axiom that natural is good because of like the diet stuff, because of all the poison we're getting fed in our foods and our drugs and all that kind of stuff, that like the unnatural is really bad. Like I understand that's sort of, I think, part of where that association comes from. But yeah, it's important to remember natural is not necessarily good. Well, that's where religion comes in, because without religion, without Bible and other different religions that are very helpful, they kind of teach us things that we need to know as well, which is another thing the left does. Just get rid of religion altogether. These lessons are pointless. You're a bit like, where was it? In England, a preacher got arrested from reading from the Bible. I mean, this is all left-wing horseshit.
And what's crazy about that is like, because they basically think like the world, the United States, the world that we've lived in for the last 40 years here in the United States is all of history in some sense. They don't understand how we're a little blip of really, really great stuff in a history of crap, and a history of war and violence and murder and no food, no housing, they assume, because of their ignorance, they assume that what is happening here is just sort of always going to be. And so there's nothing to preserve, because there's nothing that was gained and nothing that will be lost.
Yeah. Well, I would dispute this is the best time. I think that you know, a lot of things about the time we live in is great, but I think a lot of things cause problems. Like, people have to work less hard. People don't have to really fight for anything anymore. I think we need to do those things. I think hard work is a virtue, and I think sometimes you have to fight. And you have a bunch of lazy pussies now. So, yeah, I mean, there was violence and there was, you know, suffering, but who says that suffering is a bad thing? Suffering builds character. Suffering turns you into a better person a lot of times. So you know, just because you're not suffering anymore, you know, I don't think that's necessarily always a good thing.
You can't contrast the good from the bad if you haven't had the bad.
Right.
Like, it does serve its purpose for sure.
It's suffering.
Yeah. I think, like cultivating toughness, building character, you know, knowing how to fight, having a very fighting and warrior centric culture. Like the idea of the warrior poet or the warrior philosopher, you know, like being both physically competent and mentally competent. I think embodying those. Then for women too, like women need to be, you know, healthy and physically prepared as best they can, especially with martial arts, so that they can handle, you know, issues with men that are bigger and stronger than they are. Hopefully they have the technique to handle it. Like you need to cultivate those things in you for sure.
Yeah, I just don't think. I think you know, women learning how to fight is kind of a waste of time. I mean, there's certain women. Look, you can take 100 women. You can teach them martial arts for 10 years. In my opinion, only 1 or 2 of them women will ever be able to deter an attack. A little 4'11" woman, doesn't matter how many martial arts she knows. If a dude wants to rape her, she's getting raped. Like, it doesn't matter if she knows. Like, you cannot overpower
big enough for, yeah. So like, here's the thing. I grew up around, I kind of grew up around athletes, so my perception of women's athletic capabilities is maybe overstated.
Their reproductive system, man. All this over exercise for women is not good for their reproductive system. It does mess with their biology because they're not supposed to be doing that.
I know a lot of female fighters that have fertility issues later on because of all the weight cutting and trying to control them. Women are meant to have more body fat than men, and yeah.
They have no business doing that. Are they here to become ripped and fighters, or are they here to have children and be nurturers? They're not here to be fighters. That's why their reproductive system suffers when they do stuff like that. You can't have your cake and eat it too, man. You know, and it just...
Well, I think you can. I think, like, you can be a mother and a fighter, and if you have your kids young and you train, you know, have a good... And then, like, part of the issue is the organizations have weight classes and stuff. You could have a different sort of a weight protocol for women. You should, in my opinion, because it's expecting them to cut weight just like men can is very, very dumb. But that's a lot of insider baseball stuff.
A lot of time and a lot of hard work. And once a woman has a child, that stuff is out the window, man. You have a more important duty and a calling now. You can stop playing games with punching bags and stuff. You are a mother now, and your most important thing is to mold that child and to keep that child.
See, you're a producer, you're an artist, you have your creative outlets. For some people, martial arts is that thing. So I know for me, because I love martial arts too, I know how deep that love can get. So like me, like I see where you're coming from. So here's where I'll agree with you, like wholeheartedly. You should not sacrifice being a good parent for damn near anything else, especially being a good mom. You should not sacrifice it for anything. With that being said, do what your heart is called to do. Do what you want. I believe part of what gives us meaning as individuals is our individual creative and productive capacity. So like, if you want to be an artist, if you want to paint, if you want to do music, if you want to be a fighter and train martial arts, like it might not like I think if you're called to it, it's fine. It's like there's a lot of these considerations, and once you meet them, then I say go ahead.
Yeah, but these UFC type women, that they're competing at the upper echelon level, which takes dedication and hard work. You can't do that if you're a mother. You can maybe
a lot of them, some of them are moms and they're successful.
Yeah, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be professional fighters if they're a mother. 100% no, because you.
No, I 100% disagree with that. Like if there's risk of death, I can kind of see your point. If there's no risk of death, I don't see your point at all.
Become a top tier level fighter. How many hours a day do you need to do that?
Probably like 4 to 6. Is
that cutting into your parenting time? Absolutely.
4 to 6.
100%.
Yeah.
She's got.
I mean, yeah, I guess ultimately it's cutting it out, but again, like how many hours a week do you need to be a parent, right? Like you don't need to be there engaged with your kid 24/7. So I think women can be fighters, and it doesn't have to be any kind of an issue.
In this culture we're in now, where the depravity is infecting every child through their cell phone, and we're getting all of the kids that don't respect their parents, kids that hate America when they grow up. Yeah, you kind of need to be a full-time parent these days. You have to block all kinds of disgusting shit from your children. It is a full-time job now. It used to not be, but now it's like the left has become so depraved, and they control every institution, every TV show, every song, you have to be a full-time vigilant parent to
if you just
a normal person into the world now. If you want to be a good parent, you want to have a normal child, no, you basically have to be on defense all the time. You don't have time to go around kicking punching bags. You have a job. It's much harder now, and it demands more time than ever. You know, homeschooling. You can't put your kids in public school anymore. You have to homeschool your children now, because they will be indoctrinated in school. They will learn Marxism, pure Marxism, in elementary school now. You don't have time to learn how to fight as a woman. You have a more important job. I mean, it's just.
Look, here's the thing. I agree with you with the seriousness of all these things, and yeah, like now is the time to really put almost everything else aside and handle these societal and political issues. But assuming these special circumstances weren't here, I would disagree with you.
But hey, why can't they do these things at home? Why do you have to be a pro top tier level fighter as a woman? Why can't you just do this on the side in your spare room at home and get the same fulfilling? That way, if you're
not the same. It's not the same, bro.
It shouldn't be that way. Why do we need warrior women? We don't. There is no upside to women being warriors. Zero. There's no societal upside to that at all. If they were supposed to be warriors, how come they don't?
I think that's saying too much.
We have different roles. It is time that we understand that and stop trying to be like women, and women need to stop trying to be like us. Relish in our differences, accept it, and it's a beautiful thing. I don't want a woman that can kick my ass, and neither does any other dude. The vast majority of men do not want a masculine woman who's got a large clit and can barely have children. You know what I'm saying? That is gross.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to disagree with that.
Throughout history,
maybe Jim Norton. Maybe he's the lone exception.
Gladiators. They've never strived to be warriors. Maybe one outlying woman here and there. Why are there so many now? Because of this blurred lines between gender. Now we're getting a bunch of masculine women and feminized men. It's a bad thing for everyone. It's a bad thing for the children. I'm sure they love it. Okay. Well, I would love to go around and fuck every woman that walks that I think is attractive, but I don't do that. We shouldn't just, if that's what your heart wants you to do, just follow it. Yeah, well, my heart's telling me to bang everything that moves. I'm not following that. You know what I'm saying?
Your calling is fornication.
Yeah. I mean, you need to have discipline, just because you want to be a UFC.
Yeah, absolutely. You need moral and general discipline.
What?
You need moral and general discipline. Any discipline is saying, like a discipline by definition is I could be all of these things, and out of the potential, I'm just going to be this thing. I'm just going to be this
I just
this
don't know
limitation.
why women are becoming warriors when no men want that.
We Instagram has me cut to 1 hour at a time, so we've got like 15 seconds left.
Oh, okay.
You want to hop back on? Keep going.
I've actually got tons to do. I don't really have time, but maybe we can do another show at another time.